What's going on, my dudes? This is Math Time with Mr. G, and we're going to talk about multiplying with negatives. So, first thing I want to cover is that there's a couple ways that they might show multiplication. They might show 5 times 6. They might show 5 times 6 with parentheses, or they might say 5 the star 6. And it just means multiplication. So old school multiplication, 5 times 6 is 30. But now we have a negative symbol. Anytime we have a negative times a positive, we're going to finish with a negative. Next, still only one positive and one negative. If I have one of each, my final answer is negative. However, if I have two negatives, I'm going to finish with the positive. So if I had two positives, when multiplied, I finished with the positive. So positive, positive, positive. But when I finished with two negatives, I finished with a positive. But when I finished with one of each, I finished with a negative. So a negative and a positive, I finished with a negative. Positive and negative, I finished with a negative. So what happens when I have a whole bunch of them? I just want you to focus on the first two at a time. So negative 2 times negative 3. Two negatives make a positive. And then we're going to say times negative 4 times negative 5. Now we multiply. Positive times a negative is a negative. And then negative times a negative is going to be a positive 120. So just work at two at a time and then rewrite everything. Two at a time, rewrite. Two at a time. And then just work your symbols. So some common mistakes I see are, oh, there's parentheses, so it must be multiplication. Only when the parentheses are touching the number is that multiplication. When two symbols are touching, that becomes our adding problem, and I get 11. If they are touching, it's multiplication because it's two numbers touching. Two negatives, oh my gosh, there's two negatives, so it must be a positive. Well, this is still a subtraction problem. This isn't multiplication. When it's subtracting, we're still just going to subtract. If it's multiplication and there's two negatives, then yeah, two negatives make a positive. So just make sure, is it a multiplication problem? If so, two negatives make a positive. If it's a subtracting problem, it's going to be a bigger negative. So just remember to be kind to one another, ask lots of questions, and think deeply.